The silver halls of the Federation Council on Citadel Prime were the heart of the galaxy. For 1,000,000 years, they had been the sole arbiters of civilization, the keepers of science, the bringers of an ordered, benevolent peace. Today, they would welcome a new species into their fold, a primitive race called humans, from a small, forgotten world. But what if the primitives aren't primitive at all? What happens when 1,000,000 years of unquestioned superiority is shattered in a single afternoon? And what is an empire to do when it discovers it is not the master of the galaxy, but merely a child playing in a small, quiet corner of it? Humans astonished the Federation Council by refusing to share their technology. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe and like the video. It helps us explore the unknown. All right, let's begin the story. Ambassador Valen of the Signan Ascendancy adjusted his ceremonial robes of woven light and reviewed the datapad one final time. His feathers, a shimmering cascade of silver and blue, ruffled with a faint, paternalistic sigh. Another one. Another young, fledgling species, discovered on the outer rim of the galaxy, blinking in the sudden, bright glare of true civilization. This species called themselves humans, and they came from a small, waterlogged planet named Earth. Valen had seen this process hundreds of times in his long life. It was a comfortable, predictable ritual. A young species would develop basic, clumsy space travel. They would make contact with Federation scouts, and within a few months, they would be eager, grateful members of the galactic community. It was always the same pattern. They would be utterly, completely awestruck by Federation technology. They would be grateful for the guidance of their elders. And they would be happy, so very happy, to trade their primitive, quaint knowledge for the gifts of real, systemic advancement. Another routine integration ambassador, his assistant, a young Vrex named Lyra, asked eagerly. She was fresh out of the Federation Academy, her multifaceted eyes wide with the excitement of her first contact ceremony. Valen offered her a gentle, knowing smile. Of course, Lyra. These humans will likely be overwhelmed. Their initial reports seem typical. Their ships appear to be crude metal boxes, held together with chemical welds, and, what's the primitive term? Hoped. He gestured to the datapad. They use chemical rockets and crude fission-based engines. Technologies the Federation abandoned thousands of years ago. Their planet is a chaotic mess, divided into hundreds of competing governments that spend more time fighting each other than exploring space. Everything about them screams, primitive civilization, Class D integration protocol. Do you think they will offer anything interesting in trade? Lyra asked, her antennae twitching with curiosity. Valen laughed, a sound like wind chimes in his throat. Unlikely. Most primitive species have little to offer beyond raw materials and a fresh labor pool. Though I hear these humans are quite creative in their methods of warfare. Perhaps they have some amusingly archaic weapon designs we can add to the historical archives. The Federation had protocols for everything. An elegant, million-year-old dance of diplomacy and technological dominance. First, they would demonstrate their superior technology to establish the natural order of things. Then, they would offer the gift of Federation membership in exchange for compliance with Federation law. Finally, they would begin the slow, benevolent process of uplifting the primitive species to basic galactic standards. It usually took about 50 years to get a new species properly house-trained. The humans had been observing Federation space for several months now. Their crewed ships had been spotted near trade routes and communication relays, moving in their slow, methodical way. Federation Command had decided it was time to make formal contact before the primitives accidentally stumbled into a restricted military zone or interfered with something important. What puzzled Valen, the only slight wrinkle in this otherwise smooth tapestry, was the sheer number of human ships that kept appearing. For a species that had supposedly just developed rudimentary space travel, they seemed to have a lot of vessels. The reports showed human ships in dozens of different star systems, all at the same time. Sir, Lyra interrogated. Ted his thoughts, her voice tight with confusion. The advanced contact team is reporting something odd. Valen's smile tightened slightly. He disliked oddities. What kind of odd, Lyra? The human ships, sir. Our long-range sensor arrays, they cannot identify their propulsion systems. The ships are moving, but there is no energy trail. No ion wash, no fusion signature, no gravitational distortion. They simply move. It violates the known principles of conservation of momentum. Valen waved a dismissive hand, though a small, cold seed of curiosity was planted in his mind. It is likely a sensor glitch or some crude variant of an obsolete drive we have not cataloged yet. These young species often stumble onto unusual applications of basic physics. They are like children playing with firecrackers. But privately, he felt a twinge of something more. The Federation had mapped every possible method of propulsion in the galaxy. Their scientists had spent millions of years perfecting the art of moving through the void. If humans had genuinely found something new, it might actually be worth studying. The first human delegation was scheduled to arrive within the hour. Valen had arranged for the full ceremonial treatment. The Federation's most impressive technologies would be on display in the main council chamber. Holographic projectors would show the breathtaking scope of Federation space. Gravity manipulators would demonstrate their mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. Molecular assemblers would create complex objects from raw atoms, a display of creation itself. It always had the same effect. The primitives would stare in wide-eyed wonder. They would ask hesitant, foolish questions, and then they would eagerly, gratefully agree to whatever terms the Federation offered. Ambassador, another voice came over the internal communication system. We are receiving a priority transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Valen ordered, smoothing his robes. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human female. She was in what appeared to be a simple, practical military uniform, a stark contrast to Valen's own flowing attire. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe, no-nonsense style, and her eyes held a calm, piercing intelligence that seemed to take in every detail of the opulent council chamber. She was not awestruck. She looked analytical. "Greetings," she said, her voice clear and her pronunciation of Federation standard absolutely perfect. "I am Commander Anya Sharma of the Earth Exploration Fleet. We appreciate your invitation to meet with the Federation Council." Valen blinked in surprise. He had the translation team on standby. Most primitive species required extensive linguistic assistance for their first formal contact. How had the humans learned Federation standards so quickly and with such perfect accent and grammar? "Welcome, Commander Sharma," he replied, recovering his poise and falling back on the familiar script. "We look forward to introducing your species to the broader galactic community." He gestured magnanimously. "We have prepared a demonstration of our civilization's achievements that we believe will interest you." "That sounds fascinating," Sharma replied, and Valen could have sworn a flicker of amusement crossed her face. "We have also prepared some demonstrations of our own, if you would be so kind as to indulge us." Valen exchanged a glance with Lyra. It was highly unusual for a primitive species to offer technology demonstrations during first contact. Usually, they were too overwhelmed by Federation capabilities to even think about showing off their own crude, steam-powered inventions. "Of course," he replied politely, forcing a benevolent smile. "We always enjoy learning about new approaches to scientific problems. We will be honored to witness your creations." The transmission ended, leaving Valen staring at the empty holographic display. Something about the human commander bothered him. She had seemed confident, self-possessed, not the usual, expected mix of fear and wonder that characterized these meetings. "Lyra," he said slowly, "pull up the latest intelligence reports on human ship movements. Cross-reference them with the sensor anomalies from the advanced team. I want to know everything." The young Vrex quickly accessed the files, her multifaceted eyes scanning the data streams. Her antennae began to twitch nerve. "Usly, sir, there have been some significant developments. Our long-range sensors are detecting human vessels in the Kepler sector, the Vega cluster, and the outer spiral regions, all simultaneously." Valen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's perfect climate control. Those regions were thousands of light-years apart. Even with the Federation's fastest slipstream couriers, it would take weeks to travel between them. "How?" he whispered. "How are they managing to be in so many places at once? Are we certain these are the same species?" "The ship configurations match perfectly, sir," Lyra stammered. "But our scientists cannot explain how they are achieving such rapid deployment. The energy signatures don't match any known propulsion system. It's almost as if they're using some form of space-folding technology. But that's impossible. The mathematics alone would require computational systems beyond anything we have ever built. It's theoretical, mythical. Valen stood slowly, his robes of woven light rustling in the suddenly silent chamber. For the first time in his long, distinguished diplomatic career, he felt a flutter of profound uncertainty. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be crude and simple. So why did he suddenly feel like he was the one who was unprepared for this meeting? The Federation Council Chamber was a masterpiece of galactic engineering, designed to communicate one simple message: you are small, and we are great. The dome stretched 300 meters above the polished floor, its surface displaying a real-time, three-dimensional map of Federation space. Thousands of star systems glowed like captured jewels against the dark, velvet background, connected by the bright, pulsing lines of trade routes and communication networks. Commander Anya Sharma stood at the entrance, taking in the sight with a calm, practiced appreciation. Behind her, Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a man with a mind as sharp as a scalpel, and engineer Chloe Martinez, a woman who saw the universe in terms of elegant, interlocking systems, waited quietly. All three humans wore simple, functional gray uniforms that looked almost primitive next to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor of the approaching Federation delegates. Ambassador Valen approached with what he hoped was an impressive entourage. Representatives from a dozen major Federation species flanked him, their various forms creating a living display of galactic diversity and power. The insectoid Kthar clicked their mandibles in formal greeting. The gaseous ethereals shimmered in their containment suits, their thoughts a low, psychic hum. The massive Goran delegates, beings of living stone, made the floor vibrate with each heavy, deliberate step. "Welcome, Commander Sharma," Valen announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, a sound of magnanimous welcome. "Welcome to the heart of galactic civilization. Today, you will witness the technologies that have brought peace and prosperity to over 10,000 worlds for 1,000,000 years." Sharma nodded politely, her expression unreadable. "We appreciate the hospitality, Ambassador. This is quite an impressive facility." Valen gestured to the center of the chamber, where a series of sleek, metallic platforms had been arranged. "Shall we begin the demonstration?" The first platform rose silently from the floor, revealing a device that hummed with barely contained energy. Crystalline structures, grown, not built, pulsed with a soft blue light, surrounded by rings of exotic metals that seemed to bend space around them. "This," announced Dr. Eris, the Federation's chief scientist, a tall, bird-like creature with brilliant plumage, "is a gravity manipulation array. It allows us to create and control localized gravitational fields of any strength or direction." The device activated. Suddenly, objects throughout the chamber began to float. Small decorative stones rose from their displays and danced through the air in complex, orbital patterns. Water from a nearby fountain flowed upward in spiraling, crystalline streams. Several of the younger Federation delegates allowed themselves to drift gently off the ground, their robes billowing dramatically, a well-rehearsed part of the show. The human delegation watched with polite interest, but none of them seemed particularly amazed. Dr. Tanaka took out a small, handheld device and pointed it at the gravity array. "Taking readings. Fascinating approach," he commented, his voice clear and analytical. "You're using resonant crystalline matrices to focus the gravitational field. A very elegant solution to the field bleed problem." Dr. Eris blinked his large, avian eyes in surprise. Most primitives could barely comprehend what they were seeing, let alone analyze the advanced technical principles involved. The second demonstration involved molecular assembly. A platform displayed raw carbon, silicon, and various metallic elements in small, shielded containers. A Federation technician activated another complex machine. Beams of colored light scanned the raw materials, which dissolved into a shimmering cloud of atoms. The cloud then coalesced, and within minutes, the raw materials had been transformed into a perfect, intricate crystalline sculpture of a soaring cygnon, its form so detailed it seemed alive, sparkling with internal light. "Matter conversion at the molecular level," Valen explained proudly. "We can create any object we can imagine, as long as we have the base elements." Engineer Martinez studied the process intently, Her eyes narrowed in concentration. "Impressive precision control," she said. "The atomic lattice is flawless. Though I notice you're limited to reconfiguring existing matter. You can't transmute elements or create them from vacuum energy, can you?" Again, the Federation delegates exchanged uneasy glances. The human was discussing their most advanced technology as if she were reviewing a student's project, pointing out its limitations. The third demonstration was the crown jewel of Federation science, the very foundation of their vast empire. A massive holographic projector activated, filling the chamber with a perfect, three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. Stars pulsed in real time, showing current solar flare activity and stellar conditions across billions of worlds. Communication networks sparkled like the neural pathways of a god, carrying information faster than light across impossible distances. "Instantaneous communication," Valen announced, his voice filled with reverence. "Through our quantum entanglement network, any 2 points in Federation space, no matter how far apart, can exchange information immediately. The galaxy is unified. One voice, one mind." For the first time, Commander Sharma showed genuine, unfeigned interest. She walked closer to the immense projection, her eyes tracing the complex network patterns. "You're using quantum entanglement," she observed, her voice holding a note of true appreciation. "But you found a way to stabilize the paired particles across galactic distances, bypassing the decoherence problem. That's actually quite clever." Dr. Eris puffed up his chest feathers with pride. "It took our greatest minds 3,000 years to perfect the technique." "I can see why you'd be proud of that achievement," Sharma nodded. Ambassador Valen stepped forward, preparing for the climactic moment of the demonstration. This was it. The moment when the primitive species typically fell to their knees in wonder, their minds broken by the sheer scale of Federation power, begging to join and learn these miraculous technologies. "As you can see, Commander," he said formally, his voice booming with benevolence, "the Federation has mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. We have brought an end to war, to scarcity, to ignorance. We offer full membership in this great civilization to your species, along with access to all of these technologies." He paused, letting the magnificent offer hang in the air. "In return, we ask only that you follow Federation law and contribute your knowledge and your people to our shared scientific advancement." The three humans looked at each other. A silent, imperceptible communication passed between them. It was a glance, nothing more, but it held the weight of a long and complex conversation. "That is a very generous offer, Ambassador," Sharma said carefully. "Before we give our formal response, would you be interested in seeing some of our own technology? We wouldn't want you to think we're coming to the table empty-handed." The request caught everyone off guard. Primitive species didn't offer to demonstrate their crude inventions after witnessing the glory of Federation science. They were usually too overwhelmed, too humiliated by their own inadequacy, to even think about their own capabilities. "Of course," Valen replied, his diplomatic training taking over, though he couldn't hide his confusion. "We are always interested in unique perspectives on scientific problems." Sharma smiled and gestured to Dr. Tanaka. "Kenji, would you be so kind as to show them the repair demonstration?" Dr. Tanaka pulled out what looked like a simple metal rod, the size of a pencil, from his uniform pocket. He walked over to one of the Federation's priceless, multi-trillion credit molecular assembly platforms. Before anyone could react or stop him, he pressed the tip of the rod against the machine's perfectly polished surface and carved a deep, ugly gouge across it. Sparks flew. Alarms immediately began blaring. The damaged assembly platform, a wonder of the galaxy, sputtered and went offline. Dr. Eris rushed forward, his plumage fluffed in pure, horrified shock. "What have you done?" he shrieked. "That machine is calibrated to the Planck length. It took years to attune its quantum matrix. You've destroyed it." "Watch," Tanaka said simply. He touched the metal rod to the center of the damaged surface. A faint, silvery light spread from the point of contact. The gouge, the deep scar in the metal, began to disappear. Not slowly, not with visible mechanical repair or nanomachines. It simply ceased to exist. In less than a second, the surface was perfect again. Flawless. The alarms cut off. The machine's status light blinked from red to green. It was completely functional. The chamber fell into a silence so profound it was like the death of a star. Self-repairing matter, Sharma explained casually, as if discussing something utterly trivial. The rod contains programmable atoms. They analyze the structure of any damaged object and restore it to its original, perfect configuration. Standard issue in our toolkits. Engineer Martinez stepped forward next. Chloe, the adaptation demo, if you please. Martinez produced what appeared to be a simple black cube, about the size of her fist. She tossed it gently into the air, where it hovered, motionless, absorbing all light. Watch what happens when you try to scan it, she suggested. Dr. Aris, still shaken, aimed his personal diagnostic tricorder at the floating cube. The device, the most advanced handheld scanner in the galaxy, immediately began to display impossible, contradictory readings. This is not possible, he stammered, staring at the screen. According to this, the cube is simultaneously solid and gaseous. It is absolute 0 and 10,000 degrees Kelvin. Its mass is fluctuating between a single gram and that of a small moon. My tricorder is broken. No, it's not, Martinez said. The cube is adapting to your sensors. Every time your device sends out a scanning pulse, the cube analyzes the pulse and instantly changes its own physical properties to confuse the readings. It has no fixed state. It is whatever it needs to be to remain unseen. Perfect camouflage against any detection system. But Sharma wasn't finished. She walked to the center of the chamber and pulled out her own device, something that looked like a seamless fusion of polished obsidian and captured starlight. And this, she said simply, is our communication system. The device activated. There was no hum, no light. But suddenly, the chamber filled with voices. Not translated voices. Not disembodied sounds from the chamber's emitters. But direct, clear communication in the native, untranslated languages of dozens of different species. Conversations were happening in real time across the galaxy. But these weren't Federation channels. These weren't species on their network. Sharma was tapping into a different network entirely. One the Federation had never even known existed. How? Dr. Aris whispered, his scientific worldview shattering around him. Our quantum network is the only means of instantaneous communication. We don't use quantum entanglement, Sharma replied, her voice soft. It's clever, but too fragile. Too easy to intercept. We use dimensional folding. We simply create a microtunnel through a higher dimension to connect any 2 points. Distance becomes irrelevant when you can step outside of normal space-time. The Federation delegates stared at the 3 humans in growing, dawning shock. Everything they had just witnessed. Self-repairing matter. Adaptive, state-shifting materials. Trans-dimensional communication. These things didn't just bend the laws of physics. They operated on a set of laws the Federation had never even dreamed of. Their greatest achievements, the work of 1,000,000 years, seemed primitive. Childish. Ambassador Valen finally found his voice. It was a choked, strangled sound. How is this possible? Our scientists have studied the universe for millions of years. There are laws. Laws of physics that cannot be broken. Commander Sharma looked at him, and for the first time, her professional mask slipped, replaced by something that looked almost like sympathy. Ambassador, she said gently, we appreciate what you have shown us today. Your technology is very impressive within its limitations. But we found, very early in our history, that the universe has far fewer absolute laws than most species assume. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the silent, shocked assembly. The only true law is that there is always something new to learn. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had demonstrated technology that made the mighty Federation look backward. And somehow, Valen had the terrifying feeling that this was just the beginning.